Good afternoon. I hope all your bellies are full, which means we have now the graveyard slots. That's how they call it. I would like my panel members to join me on the dais. But before I do that, we're talking about circularity and value chain. And in the end, this is the very important thing, how we can achieve that in the market. And for that, we need a couple of experts on the stage. So I first would like to have Saidi here from Raj. She is Saidi Takare. She is a manager for strategy and business development for renewable chemicals and materials at Raj. And her work is focused on commercialization and market development of sustainable technologies in renewable chemicals and materials. Please help me welcome Saidi. Next, I go by age, which is not nice to Ajay. Ajay Kamakar, he's the director technical for Conspec, and actually Ajay is the reason I'm here in India. If I would not have met Ajay, I would not have met Vinod, and without Vinod, I would not have met Avantika. So that's the chain. So his research interest in the areas of natural fiber-filled composites, biodegradable plastics, blends and alloys, and with a focus on starch-based plastics and functionalization of polymers. Please welcome Andre. Next, yesterday evening I first met Mr. Bhupender Singh. He holds an engineering degree specialized in business and strategy from IIM Indore, and he has worked for the last 25 years, among others with ICPA, with a global expertise in sustainable sourcing for post-consumer plastic procurement, vendor development, and so on. So you have a lot of experience. Please welcome him. And last not least, Mr. Kumaniketan Paka. He's the head of Policy and Corporate Affairs at Paka. And Paka is a leading agri-based, residue-based, sustainable food packaging company, very long word. He leads policy and advocate and government engagements across state and also international. Welcome. So, we all talk about circularity and we all come from different fields. When you look at it, and it's great. I mean, different parts in the value chain. In the future, all products will need to be designed for circularity. That's very clear. It's not just compostability, it's mechanical recycling, chemical recycling, physical recycling, whatever we call it. My first question to do is, what does that mean for your part of the value chain? So Ajay, you are basically there in the material design part. Yes. What does that mean? What do you need to know? What you have to do to actually be able to do that?
So as you have said in the morning that China has inaugurated some 100 plus polymers. There are lots of options available with conventional polymers, and there are specific polymers required to meet the specific product needs or requirements of a specific processing technology. So bioplastics, we have hardly 2 or 3 available, and bioplastic alone as a single component will not be able to perform on all types of machine for all types of applications. So what we need to do is we need to modify the bioplastics or compound them, blend them with other bioplastics so that you can make them suitable for a particular process. Say like straws, pure PLA or PAT, nothing can work on a straw. So you need to compound it. Secondly, there is also requirement to first reduce the cost, or second to give certain properties like strength. You may require them to be blended with either natural fibers or with fillers. So all these things require technology, and at Conspec we specialize in developing material which can suit a specific application. design with BCML, we design a material for Raphael gate. So no single polymer can serve the purpose, but a compound or a blend or a composite can do that. So that's where compounding or modification of biopolymers is important.
Thank you, Ajay. Next, when we look into the value chain, it's not exactly split up. Kumar and Taka, you're basically deploying this material to the market. I mean, you're bringing it to the brand owners, to the consumers. What does this mean for you when you want to establish circularity?
Well, when we reach out to brand owners and even when we develop the product, so one of the philosophies that we have is reducing our footprint. So whatever we take from the nature, we should, at the end of the day, we should be giving it back instead of leaving a negative footprint. Whenever we reach out to brand owners, we ourselves have a Chuck as a brand, which makes compostable takeaways. The main challenge which we face for brand owners, it's their main criteria is that they would want the properties which currently their traditional plastics provide. They want it to be better or even like at least equal to what they currently have. Just circularity and sustainability is not the point which we can sell our products on, because at the end of the day, it has to make economic sense for them. So that is where we are quite keen on. That is where our R&Ds are mostly focused on. We make our products out of sugarcane bagasse, so even with PLA, ethanol, we make sugar. So whatever the byproduct is left, we turn it into paper, we turn it into molded products, and finally we are in the middle of huge expansion, which we are hoping to make or replace multi-layered plastic packaging, the flexible packagings. So the challenge is still there. The bagasse and the paper alone cannot solve it. The biopolymers and the innovation therein comes in handy. It comes with long challenges as well. Hopefully, as the technology develops, as the market moves forward, a lot of that will be sorted. But at the end, the philosophy, what we had hoped for, what we wish, what we envision, is all waste one bin. So that is an ideal world which we hope that one day can be achieved, but right now that does not exist. So all in all, I feel like the track is there, the products are there, it's just the acceptance of the brand owner part and at the end the consumer, which I think a lot of it will be expedited from a policy point of view as well.
Thanks, Kumar, for that. Bender, I mean, you established IKEA and for many other companies post-consumer plastics, which then could be used again. What does it mean, circularity? What do you need in the end to get this going from your side?
I mean, the crux of the main important circularity part, which is already talked about, I mean, Pushpa Madam, Trimurti sir, and even Dr. Nayak also, related to it has to be part of the system. For example, if we talk about the circularity, the important parts which, whether it is an industrial compostable or the mechanical recycling, the feedstock quality has to be important. And feedstock quality will come through the collection process only. So, and the collection process has to be established. So the most important part, which is the right now, it's the collection. So once it is started from the collection, what Pushpa Madam also talk about, circularity comes from house. Same thing, sustainability also comes from our house only. Because if people start using in a proper, I mean, segregation, this will be really good for compostable, industrial compostable, and for the mechanical. So the feedstock is the main important parts where this recycling industry is needed. So that type of, and then one more important part which Dr. Nayak also, talk about related to the identification. Marking should be there. Whether if we are doing the industrial compostable product also, for example, bottom, it has to be color coding or something so that easily segregation sorting can be done. And this will be give a clear, landmark for the mechanical recycling.
Thank you, mate. And I ask you another question now, which is not in the protocol.
No.
Because a lot of the people have the feeling, tell me the Indians will not sort biomass waste now. That cannot be done. I have a different opinion, but what's your opinion?
It is there, and to be very honest and blunt also, yes, there are certain, and I can say that, the percentage which doing proper segregation or some at house is very less. And law is already there, which we talk about the SWM, PWM, everything is there. But still, we are not doing. And that is the most important part because the future is really industrial, I would say. Because something which is coming in, it has to be come out to the main part. And for that, yes, industrial. But yes, I am not, discriminating with the mechanical recycling, but that is also very important as a parallel because something has to be run in parallel. And slowly we can move once we are mature enough to complete that part. So education has to be start from the school. What sir also talk about that her daughter asked about that if father you are polluting the environment and he took that idea okay, let's make something biodegradable or biodegradable bags, so which is also very important when the children ask, and these are our future. So we need to create something for better environment for everyone.
Thank you for that. Saidi, in the end, Raj is deploying the technologies for this. What does it mean for you when, as a technology provider and developer?
So thank you for the question. For circularity in product, so mainly it has to be looked at with great attention in two aspects. One is the process design and one is the manufacturing part. So the objective today is not only producing the polymers efficiently, but also ensuring that they get integrated seamlessly into the existing infrastructure for end of life. And when you look at the process design part, we should be able to produce the polymers with well-defined and consistent properties that comply with globally accepted compostability standards, avoiding use of unnecessary additives, avoiding complex multi-layer structures. Secondly, on the manufacturing perspective, there should be options of building flexible and modular plants that can cater to different kind of renewable feedstocks, a need for innovative business models, and basically reducing your steam, energy consumption that will drive your resource efficiency. So the sustainability and the third most important part would be digital traceability and the quality control. So this will help us identify the material, track it, and direct it to its appropriate end of life. So I feel these three aspects are important. So the circularity part should not only lie with the waste management companies alone, but should be taken into consideration from the very beginning of the life cycle. So this will ensure that the product does not lose its value just after the first use. And we at RAT are also working across the ecosystem with different compounders, converters, and brand owners to ensure that the point of circularity is taken into consideration from the very beginning of the life cycle.
Thank you, Saidi, and I think that's exactly the point. Nobody in the value chain can do it alone, do it together. It will not work if somebody does it. We have to do it. And I'd like to continue with you, Saidi, because the discussion yesterday we had, and also today what Mr. Tirumurti said and what we heard from the Honorable Justice, the challenge is how do we get to 50% carbon? How do we build in these capacities? So these commercial polymer plants, whatever they are, will require a significant capital investment. Yet, in the absence of a clear long-term demand, it's a challenge to actually do that. So the investment isn't there. So how, from your point of view, Raj, you deal with that? How can we do that?
Yeah, so I shouldn't be telling you this because you've already invested. But for any first of its kind technology, so first of its kind biopolymer plant, if you say, so the biggest challenge is not the technology itself, but it is the investment risk. Biopolymer plants demand a huge capital investment, and for investors to gain confidence, they should at least be able to see a sustained demand, at least till the life cycle of its assets. And I believe this can happen through several factors. So first and foremost is your robust and indigenous technology, proven technology. Second would be a sustained demand visibility from the brand owners, application specific standards, then green procurement from the customers, and also a very sustained and like conducive policy framework. So this will help the investors to have some visibility across the demand, and when there is a clear market demand, uh, I think the capital will flow. So technology is a critical enabler, but at the end of the day, commercial viability, a lucrative commercial viability will determine investor decisions. And again, as I say that building huge capacity plants requires huge capex. So we at Raj are also working on innovative business models. So building flexible modular plants of lower capacity, which lowers indirectly the risk of the investors and also develops the market.
Thank you for that. Very interesting because yes, we took the plunge, and when we took the plunge, we didn't know exactly how big the current market is, which is pretty courageous. So, Kuma, you work with brand owners, and you said before that it's a challenge to work with the brand owners to signal. I mean, how should the system for you look in the future? How would we do that? We had the discussion yesterday. When I go to an airport and I look into this is renewable, this is not renewable, it looks the same. People don't know what to throw away. So how can we, from your point of view, improve this situation?
So, first of all, when we are talking about replacing a long-standing product, primarily the plastic, it was an incredible innovation when it came in. Right now, it's everywhere, part of like whatever we are wearing, to wherever we are, it's part of our everyday life. Now the challenge, primarily talking about packaging, we are trying to replace that. So whenever we come up with a new product, whenever you come up with a new product for the consumer, if I give it to a layman, he won't be able to tell a difference, he or she won't be able to tell a difference whether it's plastic or PL. So we are not only selling a product, we are selling the whole system. So it starts with product, where you have to compete with what already exists, you have to be better or even equal, if not. Then second is the identification and the awareness side of things, that whether you either empower the consumer, you like educate the consumer on segregation, the whole end of the life cycle, that where it needs to go, then the whole local, urban local bodies, rural local bodies comes into play. Municipalities, their onus is to segregate it properly, then put it out. And then third, creating that end of life mechanism, whether it's industrial composting infrastructure or whatever chemical recycling or other ways that we want to look at. Then the second bit is, in order to start with, whenever a new product is, we have found out that it's easier and the right way would be to target institutions, target the closed loop system, for example, defense and railways, which you are quite keen on. So there, in order to demonstrate this whole system, that is a good entry point for anyone. And then it could then scatter into the consumer psyche, where they start preferring. One additional point to this is also the consumer awareness with the whole boom of social media, and people actually have started to care about and have started to realize the environmental impact. It's not like, look at the temperature, look at what is going on in Europe. The roads are melting. It's hotter than some parts of India. So that brings in that cultural change, behavioral change among the consumer, where they start actively looking for sustainable alternatives when it comes down to, especially when it's food contact, food grade substances. Then final bit is the price and the cost. Now, all the economic argument can be made that once you scale up, once that adoption increases, you will reach that cost equilibrium. But in the meantime, it becomes imperative for manufacturers, for brand owners to absorb most of the cost, so that at the end of the day, that price of sustainability is not transferred onto the consumer at the end. Because then you are relying on consumers' kind of decision, that whether like on what is the like on what priority list does the sustainability fall for individual consumer. So these are the three things which I would put up, that whenever we reach out to brand owners, whenever we reach out to the market, these are the three things that we consider. And among this all, on top of it, I think the overcome concept is a has to be the catalyst to push this change. And once that comes in, I think we have a very bright future.
Thank you very much, Kumar. It's a long laundry. It looks like mine. Ajay, we had a good discussion yesterday evening, basically because you said, Mahesh also said it, there's not enough carbon in the soil now. And farmers go to the forest and basically clean the forest floor clean to get the carbon back into the soil. So how can we factor this in when we design products? What would be a good solution? Because you worked on starch polymers, you know exactly how to tune a polymer to degrade in the right moment, but yet so how can we bring this all together from your point of view?
Right, so carbon in the soil is a big problem in India. It is really deficient in biocarbon. And if we are talking about circular economy based on new carbon, then that new carbon will only come from the fields. It cannot come from anywhere else. It has to be agriculture-based new carbon. Now, for that, the agriculture productivity is very important. Otherwise, it will put lots of pressure on our food resources, and the new carbon availability will be difficult, particularly for India with a 1.5 billion population. So, we need to enhance the productivity of our soil by replenishing the resources. What is happening today is all the resources are riding on a one-way superhighway, going from villages or farms to cities, and not a single gram is coming back. We don't have mechanism for reverse logistic, bringing back the nutrients. Now the nutrients are being dumped into dump yards, where they are converting to methane and carbon dioxide and getting rotted, but they are not coming back to soil. Now there is no means for farmer to get back those nutrients for the soil. So essentially we need to concentrate on generating value out of those food waste or whatever natural material, biomaterial we have, and bring it back to soil. So one simple way of doing it is, instead of taking waste to the field, we can convert it to compost and send it back to the field. Converting it back to compost, one important area is collection. And that is the most difficult part, because after several hours, 12 hours, 13 hours, the food waste starts stinking. So it can be contained in a bioplastic bag, sealed or not excited, and then it is moved to composting facility where it can be composted along with the packaging. And what compost we get should be sent back to the field. That is how we can replenish the carbon. Otherwise, this craze for new carbon-based economy is going to put humongous pressure on the fields and will not work unless we have a mechanism of sending back the nutrients to the soil. That's my submission.
Ajay, thanks a lot for that. I know always when I discuss with you, I bark up the wrong tree because you already see Upendra, when I look into your experience, you did a lot now on post-consumer recycling material. So, how did you do that, and what is the most important factor to establish post-consumer recycling in a way that the brands in the end can use the material? And how do we make sure biopolymers, which are new products, don't spoil that but enrich it? So how do we need to do that? Because we get a lot of pushback right now from the traditional plastics. Please don't come with something new. It's only making our life more difficult from a sorting point of view. So how would we need to do that?
Absolutely, I mean, that is really very important and need of our also questions, because I will take a little bit time, because CPCP has already, amended so many rules from 2016 to 2026 also, which talk about the brand owner should take the responsibility. And I strongly feel that, because brand owner is the main force who can drive this. They have to design the product, they have to design the clear-cut mechanism in terms of the APR credit parts, because they are responsible. They are the main designers, those who are making them the product supplier to make that kind of things in the packaging parts. So CPCP has to put more pressure on the brand itself. First part is that. Second part is, yes, need of our is the industrial compostable product is there. But yes, nothing will change, because sometimes innovation not come through change the material. Innovation has to be also design the system. Because if we design the system, we work parallelly with the industrial compostable plus the mechanical parts, which rightly said about, during our one of the panelists. Okay, let's start with the products which are single-use plastic, like pan masala and the other parts. Do that, then understand once it will be run, because endurance part is also very important. Once it is run, it's quick. Then focus on the main products which is required, so that it should not feel for the mechanical all these parties. Okay, we are going to take their business or something. It is good for environment. Somehow they should learn from us and they will convert mechanical into industrial parts. That should be the aim, and that should be driven by CPCP and brand owners. It's really, really important, need of our also.
And you're back to the IKEA, which is a challenge. So, first of all, thanks for your contribution. I would now like to open for discussion, for question. Who has a question? Mr. Pirmoni.
I want to address. Sir, what we are thinking is, you are right, okay, whatever the agriculture is moving to the city, it is getting composted again, it's not going back to the farming to increase the carbon content in the, okay. Other than the crop residue, whatever the farmer is doing, that whatever it is coming to the city, and that also has to go back to the, that's what they expected. What is the agricultural ministry is doing?
Well,
Are we address this issue? Because MOHA is working, MOU is working, that is, what is the agricultural ministry is really doing something on that to bring the carbon back to the soil?
I have no idea about it, but yes, it should be a national priority to bring back the nutrients to the soil, including something like bagasse. See, what is the compost? It is not carbs or cellulose, it is lignin basically.
Sir, again,
What you get in here is compost is lignin.
for the sugar plant, there is a pressment rule is there.
That's what I'm saying.
There is clearly defined. In case of sugar factory, the pressment clearly mentioned, you cannot convert it to some other thing, it has to go back to the farmer. Okay, similarly the case, other material like other.
Pulp industries also should be made to return the lignin to the soil after extracting the cellulose out of it and hemicellulose out of it.
No, actually, yes, now that the recent rule SWM rule to 2026, now that agriculture business is also part of our ICPA. So then whatever composting, so that has to go back, now they have to take care of it. I think so, even with the fertilizer, Minister of Fertilizer also, they are thinking to have a some sort of agreement between the local bodies, and corporations and RDDs. Yes.
Even universities, agriculture,
That's also one of the part. Now,
even agriculture universities have very good reach to the farmers.
Yes.
Very good reach to the farmers. We can involve them because then exactly the doorstep of farmer the material will reach. Because they have extraordinary reach in the villages and farmer field. So yes, we should have a national mission on returning the nutrient to the soil, and it is very much required. Otherwise, there is no other way we can generate the nutrients.
Thank you very much for your questions. More questions? If not, then we close here and we save time. Thank you very much
Thank
again
you.
for your contribution.
Thank you for your time and listening to us. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, sirs. Our next speaker is a distinguished environmental engineer and former member secretary of the reforms, technical guidelines, and a ban on single-use plastics have played a pivotal role in advancing sustainability in Tamil Nadu. Please join me in welcoming Dr. S. Selvan.